Tinfoil hat. Oh, what the fuck are you guys even talking about?
Global controls will have to be imposed, and a world governing body will be created to enforce them.
Welcome to Tinfoil Hat. We go deep, homeboy. Aaron, open your mind. Drink from the fountain of knowledge. There's lizard people everywhere. That's some interdimensional shit. Wake up, Aaron.
This is only the beginning.
Dude, you just blew my mind.
Are you ready to get your mind blown?
Good morning, Swarm, and welcome to Tinfoil Hat. You know I am. You know I'm here to do. I'm here to rock. Joining me not as always, but again, apparently he was somewhere else when we were supposed to record on the last episode, but he joins us back. He has not been deported. Xavier Guerrero.
Who did the rock? Who did the rock? Did Johnny?
We waited and nobody came in. No rock.
Damn, sad.
And then on the ones and twos, to love them is to know them. To know them is to love them. Carl, but also here, Jay Nice, Johnny Woodard. How are you? Good to see you.
Fabulous.
So, Johnny, thank you so much for joining us on both these episodes that come out. Guys, we have a great show for you. We have the reality czars on. We have the Paranoid American and Nate's coming on. So we're very excited about that.
Good
Big show coming up. You guys will enjoy it. We start off on Bigfoot, but we get weird. And that's what we're about. High weirdness on the show. Everything about that. So real quick before we go to samtripoli.com. Check out the dates. I don't know why Comedy Chaos is still up there, but I'm going to be on Pottstown, PA, headlining Soul Joel's September 29th. That show is selling quick. If you're going to go, buy your tickets because it's going to sell quick, okay? Then I'm going to be in Vegas for Skankfest September 30th through October 1st, and then Morris Plains October 13th through the 14th, and then we have more dates coming, but back at the Comedy Vault at the beginning of the year. All the shows are up at samtripoli.com. Go check that out. Our affiliates, T-shirts, everything. Go check it out. It's all there. So let's get into the show with the conspiracy. The reality czars. Let's do it.
Drink from the fountain.
All right, let's get into it. Very excited to have these guys on. They've been on this podcast before. They've been on my premium content on Rockfin. You just got to go to rockfin.com. I'm uploading like probably 5 episodes a week across all my shows there. So go check that out, rockfin.com. Tinfoil Hat, Broken Sim, We Don't Smoke the Same, all that. Check that out. I'm very excited to have them on. They have a podcast called Reality Stars. Please welcome Nathan Chavoya, and I'm working with this next guest on a comic book. We'll get into that. Paranoid American. How are you guys?
What? Still paranoid. Still American.
Paranoid. Still American. Barely. How's it going, guys? I'm so excited to finally make this happen. We've been working on getting a date. Things get moved all the time, but it finally happened, and we are in it.
It keeps evolving too, man. So like all the time that we had to keep preparing, like more stories, more ghost stories, more Bigfoot theories, like it's all been coming together. So we got a lot today.
I'm all about it. I'm all about the paranormal. I want to get into that. But before we go, real quick, Nathan, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and where our listeners can find you?
Heck yeah, man. I'm Nate Chavoya. Our show is called The Reality Czars. We're on Rockfin. You can find us there. You can find us anywhere and everywhere. I always tell guests, if you live within like an hour of Portland, come get a beer with me, hang out, we get some food. realityzars@gmail.com. Hit me up for love mail or hate mail, dick pics, whatever you want to do. We're down. So realityzars@gmail.com.
We were talking about Bigfoot dick pics before the show. If you guys can prove Bigfoot has a dick, send to the Reality Czars. They are interested. Paranoid American, where can they find? Tell us about yourself, where they can find you.
You can write out of the name, paranoidamerican.com, at Paranoid American on most social platforms. Been doing comic books about conspiracy theories and occult research since 2012 animations. We did a show maybe like a year ago on Occult Disney, and that actually launched into a whole series that I've been doing on YouTube now called Occult Disney. And we worked our way all the way from the very first one. We did Fantasia, and we went all the way back to Snow White and worked our way all the way up to, I think, Little Mermaid we just did recently, the one with the Dick Castles.
The Dick
So,
Castles.
Yeah, so
If you get into
ParanoidAmerican.com,
Pinocchio,
Dick Castles.
You should get if you get into Pinocchio, you should get Jim Brewer on, because he always talks about that scene where they're like, we send them as boys and they come back as asses, and you're like, Jesus, dude.
And that's a
That is
link to
rough.
the golden ass, which is Greek magic that talks about necromancy and stuff. So it's there's a lot of symbolism there that goes beyond just the superficial Disney mind control MK Ultra. It's like, no, you're actually talking about legit Greek magic at that point.
That's so interesting. Real quick, let's get into it. Very excited. I don't know. Are we gonna put out the name of the well, we own the domain name, so we should be good, but I'm very excited. I've been working with the Paranoid American. He's doing a lot of the work, and I've been blessed that he's knocking it out. But I'm not sure when it's gonna be released, but we're pumped. We're getting ready for it. It's getting closer and closer to being done. I'm very excited to announce that the comic book, the first episode, is going to be done soon. It's called The Chaos Twins. And why don't you tell them a little bit about it and when we think it might be dropping?
So Chaos Twins is modeled after two incredibly special little girls that have the ability to communicate with like an entire realm of cryptids, but they can also jump in and out of other dimensions. And it's all because their dad dragged them to some town. He was like following nostalgia. He kind of got lost in the sauce. And now these girls are kind of going on this, adventure throughout the town, going into the houses, meeting all the people. And all the adults are sort of oblivious, like adults tend to be, because they're not connected to that same realm. So it's called Chaos Twins. It's gonna have like the most outlandish story, but it's gonna be like kid friendly. So it'll be a fun read. And I think, it's kind of been done. So at this point, it's about how many do we want to print? How big do we want distro? So I'm thinking we might do like a crowdfunding of some kind, or like a Kickstarter. But I'm hoping this year, man. I'm hoping maybe within the next 2 months we can drop a link and just start raising funds.
We're gonna we'll have a business meeting. We'll set it up. We'll get it going. And also, you want to put out kind of an album too? Is that what you were talking about? Like,
yeah, man. So back when Nick Natoli dropped Tinfoil song, and it was just like he dropped Sam Tripoli in there, and it was just like a perfect alignment, right? Because we've been talking to Nick, I've been talking to Joel Thomas, the Kill the Mockingbirds and Merkle Media. I've been talking to so many different artists, and my background before I was even at Disney was in the music recording industry. So I've just been like, it's time for me to call in all those favors that have been building up for the last 2 decades. But I want to drop Tinfoil Trap House mixtape with a bunch of exclusive tracks that's just all about conspiracy theories and tinfoil, and just have that be like a nice big launch party for the Chaos Twins, for the mixtape. I got something else too. I got a conspiracy theory trading card thing coming out eventually, conspiracycards.com. So I want to try to sync it all up together and like blow it all out at the same time.
Let's do it. I'm totally in. I'm so excited. This has stemmed from obviously having children and just seeing all the just the Marxism in our entertainment for children. And I just wanted to give them something fun and something that adults and the parents can enjoy. And if the first episode does well, maybe we'll do a series and see if we can put out some stuff and see where it goes from there. I'm excited though. I am excited. We put it into the universe and it's happening. And the Paranoid American is the driving force behind it. I'm going to give him a total and utter credit and love for the hard work. Cause he's like, come on, dude, look at these. I'm like, and he's like, he's doing a great job. And I've really trusted him during the process. So I'm excited for you guys to see that, how this turns out. And I hope you guys enjoy it as much as we've enjoyed putting it together. So let's get into it.
One question. Is it ever going to be in Spanish for my nieces in Mexico, and maybe 2 languages?
Yeah, 100%.
Oh, snaps.
Yeah, I make sure all the
Dude,
books
let's-
that I do, I keep them so that I can, translate them very easily. So
There we
yeah,
go.
we're set up for it, man, 100%.
I love it. I'm excited about it. So it's going to be great. We'll see how it goes. Let's rock and roll. So let's get into it, guys. Where do you guys want to start?
I think I've got a good entry point.
Okay.
So we got this overlying theory that I'll let Nate get into way deeper. But when people bring up cryptids, they bring up Bigfoot and ghosts and UFOs. This developing theory is that it might just be a bunch of people seeing the same thing through their own different lenses, which isn't too outlandish.
I love this. I love this idea that you have.
So I think we've got some hard evidence to at least, make this so it's more than just like a fancy idea to entertain yourself with. There might be some real meat to this one. So I just want to start with that. I'm the skeptic. I'm usually the devil's advocate in all of our shows. I'm not sure if I believe in demons
Johnny
or
of your
ghosts
show?
or angels. I guess so. Yeah, I can be the Johnny. I'll take that as a compliment. But so my biggest experience, I guess, is that there's these haunted train tracks in San Antonio. And when I was in the military, everyone used to go there on Saturday night. You'd get drunk and you would go to these train tracks and you would park your car. And the story, which is actually true, is that a school bus had stalled out on the train tracks. And I guess they didn't get everybody off on time. The train hits this school bus full of kids. And all the streets around it are called Little Johnny Street, Little Sammy Boulevard. There weren't any Javi, it was mostly white kids, Little Sally Street and stuff, but it's so creepy driving around and knowing that all these street names are named after these dead kids on the school bus. So people would have creepy. A line of cars and you'd turn your car off, put it in neutral, and it would roll itself onto the tracks and stop there. And it looks like it's flat. You can look this up. People still do it to the day. And they'll put baby powder on the back of their cars and look for little handprints and stuff. So that was a huge thing where I had never realized how many people legitimately either love the idea or just really into it. So that's one aspect of it. And there was also a place called Midget Mansion in San Antonio, and people would sneak over there. And it was this actual midget guy that got super rich enough to build himself a house and hired regular sized people to be his servants, and had a little midget family. And I guess something went wrong and that place got haunted. So the entire time I'm in San Antonio, the only things people seem to like to do was just go ghost hunting all the time. The Alamo's supposed to be one of the haunted places in the nation because all the people that died there. So I mean, that's my entry point. I'm not sure if I believe all of that. And then I was talking to Nate about some of my ghost experiences, and he brought up what I guess I'll call the summer camp succubus story. So
that sounds interesting.
Yeah, dude. I want him to lead into that one, and we'll come back to the haunted train tracks and stuff.
So I love this theory because Nate came on and he discussed it. Nate, can we call you Nate? Is that it?
Yeah.
Are we allowed to? Okay. Came on the Only Conspiracies, and he dropped this theory to me. And so let's get into what your theory is.
So basically, it's one of many theories, man. I never get married to any ideas. I am actually very skeptical as well, but I like this theory and I've been playing with it, that the high strangeness, this paranormal, whatever this phenomenon, whatever it is all interconnected, might be one thing or all very interconnected. So it's this whole idea that, and this, you're going to get a lot of pushback from folks that are really have their feet planted in the ground, that Bigfoot might be a flesh and blood creature, or he might be interdimensional, and that all of these things have these ties together. So when you have these experiences, like these ghost experiences, UFO experiences, any of these these experiences, they all might be one thing. And there's all these connections, all these things that have these things that tie them together. And so, yeah, man, high strangeness is all one thing.
So okay. So to break it down, what you're saying, or are you going to get into that? Because it's very specific what you're saying, and I think it's very interesting.
That people's different. So whatever this entity is, it appears to you in the way that you can most easily absorb it, right? So there's this whole cultural phenomenon. So if you're a Christian, you might if it's something that's terrifying you, this might be a demonic encounter. But if you are an atheist, this might come to you as like an alien abduction, or this might come to you as like, so it's just how you are interpreting this experience that you're having with this entity. And it's really fascinating, man. Especially when you dig into it.
And it resonates with me because there is no reality. There's only perception, and what you perceive becomes your reality. So like we could all be at the same concert watching the same show, but what our eyes and our soul and everything focus on, we could all be experiencing something totally different. Not that the music's going to be different, but the experience of that is going to be different. Like what's going on, maybe like, Xavier's on Molly and he's just tripping out and he's like grinding on everybody. That's one experience. I'm looking around going, where's the security? This thing's unsecure. Why isn't anyone? But, it's just going to break out the chaos. Johnny's just like, where's the bathroom? Right. Because he wants to go to the bathroom. Whatever it is, everybody has their own experience in that moment. So, they always talk about how the natives maybe didn't, this is the story, even though I don't think this is the true story, but they were always like, oh, they couldn't tell boats because they didn't have boats that size when the boats came, even though I don't think that's a real story. But that's
I just want to say that about you. Like, oh, Sam's never seen a boat before, so he's not going to see it at first. We're going to have to like describe it to him, and it'll slowly come in the vision.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. So if you don't know what you're looking for, you see what you want to see. So this makes sense to me. So each one of these could appear in a different way. When they say you die and you go get judged and the lights, if you're into that reincarnation belief, your family shows up to you. These archons show up to you in different forms of your family. Everybody sees different people. And then, they tell you to go in the light. When your grandma's like, go into the light, you're not supposed to do it. You got to punch grandma, dog. That's how you got to do it. So you don't
grandma.
go. Sorry, grandma, but I'm not going into the light. So I totally believe that it's like whether it's religion or anything, like a car crash, right? Like 3 people could see the car crash and have 3 completely different stories about how that car crash went, how that, what happened, the event happened. And they could give you 3 different stories. You'd be like, are you guys even talking about the same crash? So I think that's interesting for sure. Based on your spiritual beliefs is almost what you see when you're encountered by these things.
This might be a little crazy, but like, do you guys remember when the Aztecs got invaded by the Spaniards? They thought that the gods were coming in. And when these guys showed up in horses and dope ass boats, they perceived it as gods and they treated them like gods. And then they ended up obviously backtracking and killing them. But it's crazy. It's how you perceive it. It's your spirituality. When these guys were going to come to fuck your shit up, you thought they were your saviors. Like, oh, in the book, the guy's going to come in from the south. The guy comes in these boats. You've never seen boats like that. So I could see how it is perception.
Were they just not believing it enough? Like they just didn't see them helping them enough, so they ended up not help. But Sam, you said too about the like everyone is hearing the same thing, or it's like the same audio. But you could almost make the argument that that's also completely subjective because depending on where you're standing in the venue, if you're tucked away in a corner, you might just be blasted with bass because you're just in like a little pocket, right? Or the concept with acoustics, if you go into Grand Central Station and it's like busy and it's loud, but if you stand in the right spot and talk into it, it can like travel across that arch and someone else can hear a whisper. Like all of these things kind of show that even if the sound is the same, just depending on where you're at physically in real space, not just in some mental woo-woo, like, psychological thing, like in physical space, it can change. And I would also say that that's maybe why you can't just trust one sense. It's a little bit annoying when people hinge their entire conspiracy theories or perspectives on like a visual thing that they saw, or that like they'll only believe it if they see it. Because seeing is what, like someone just jiggling your optic nerves a little bit and making them vibrate. Just like sound is just someone being able to make a sound. But what you can't fake as easily or can get swindled into is the whole array of sort of senses. So olfactory, right? Your sense of smell, that one is linked the deepest to your memories. It can pull a memory out of nowhere, the strongest, like a direct circuit to it. And if you think about a lot of hauntings, a lot of Bigfoot sightings, they tend to report like this foul smell. You got the skunk ape, right? But the same thing, like when people are mentioning poltergeist or like a haunted area, like that, it's almost like a putrescene kind of smell. If you're a secular atheist, right? Like the actual scent of like something decaying has a very particular smell to it. So all of these could be, again, like physical correlations to, hey, like there's a similar thing. If you saw a ghost and I saw a Bigfoot, but we both smelled the same thing, there's the bridges that you can start to kind of like put together on these islands.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll
I
dig
totally
into that
agree.
one a little bit deeper. Yeah.
Okay, let's get well, is there any evidence that you think might support your thoughts on that?
Well, I mean, all of this is subjective, and all of this is from like the numerous dozens and dozens and dozens of people that we've interviewed and had conversations with. I personally have not seen Bigfoot yet, and I've tried. We've done a Bigfoot documentary. We've gone in the middle of the woods. We did the Stephen Greer, the CE5. We were trying to do like the alien meditation, trying to call in UFOs. We were trying to do that with Bigfoot. And we've done gifting. We've gone out there, looked for him, looking for some Bigfoot hog. Have not found anything yet. But we've done lots of interviews with folks. So this is all fun things that we have that we've kind of accumulated. So as far as like evidence, I don't know if you want to call it evidence, but this is just fun. These are fun tales and stories and theories.
No, I get what you're saying. I just like, I was interested in like, what made you come up with this theory? Because I find it to be very interesting and I really do like it. I mean, we have seen forms of this in other things like the missing 411, like the people, there are certain, what's the words I'm looking for? I'm bad with words, but statistics or demographic. That's the word, demographics. That each of these quote unquote victims or this people who are affected by this, they tend to have German lineage, very high intelligence, stuff like that fits into that demographic. And I'm wondering if there's any kind of study out there to like people who see aliens versus people who see Bigfoot versus people who see ghosts and stuff like that. I find that to be super duper interesting. All right, guys, real quick, I want to tell you about my boy, James McMahon and Copy My Crypto. Let me tell you about Copy My Crypto. Guys, listen, we've seen so many people making ridiculous money from crypto. But did you know you could do the same? The Copy My Crypto membership site shows you the coins that YouTuber James McMahon personally holds and allows you to copy them. It's like having a big brother who knows what he's doing. You don't need to know a thing about crypto or how to invest, as you simply do what he does. So let me tell you more about James. He runs Crypto with James YouTube channel, which despite heavy censorship has over 26,000 subscribers. Since March 2020, he's told his viewers to buy 26 crypto coins. Had you put $100 in each of those coins, it went up to be worth $123,000. Of the 26 coins, his top pick of the year, a coin called Phantom, went up 692 times from when he said. That one call alone retired a number of people, including guys in their 20s and 30s. Remember, this is public knowledge. You can go to YouTube and verify this yourself. So if you'd like to join the 2,800 members who copied James, then stop what you're doing and head right over to copymycrypto.com/TFH. That's copymycrypto.com/TFH. That's TFH. You'll not only find proof of everything I said, but my listeners get full access for just $1. Once again, that's copymycrypto.com/TFH. The recession is here, guys. You can suffer like everyone else or choose to thrive. James is the real deal. Go visit the site now. Hey guys, I want to tell you about our friends at DraftKings. Listen, football is back in full swing with another week of epic games. And who's got you covered on the action for every single one of them? That's right, DraftKings, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. New customers get $5 on football and get $200 instantly in bonus bets. Nobody's missing out on the action this season. All DraftKings customers can take advantage of 2 new offers every game day this September. So here's what I want you to do. Get in on the NFL Week 2 action with DraftKings Sportsbook. Download the app now and use the code TINFOIL to sign up. New customers can bet just $5 and take home $200 instantly in bonus bets. Only on DraftKings Sportsbook with the code TINFOIL. The crown is yours.
Gambling
All right.
problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.1800gambler.net. In New York, call 877-8-HOPENY or text HOPENY, HOPE-NY. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly on behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort. 21 plus, age varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. See dkng.co/football for eligibility terms and responsible gaming resources. Bonus bets expire 7 days after issuance. Eligibility and deposit restrictions apply.
That's actually that's what led into some of these theories, and I think we were talking to Chaz of the Dead. Shout out to Chaz, but he mentioned
Shout out Chaz. We love Chaz.
So Chaz had mentioned to us, and we went deep on this. There's a haunted house here in Florida that also happens to have like this ball that people claim came from outer space, or it might be like alien technology. But the interesting part is that like the ghost hunters would show up, and when someone pointed out like, oh, that ball over there too, that might be from aliens, you get like this eye roll, like, oh, come on, man, like we're serious ghost researchers, don't bring up that silly alien stuff. And then like the alien people would come and they'd be like, oh man, there's that silver ball, and someone be like, oh, did you know that this house is also haunted? And they're like, come on guys, we're serious alien researchers, don't bring that silly ghost crap in here. And just layer on top Bigfoot sightings, and just imagine if instead of all these 3 people that like society at large kind of ostracizes, but if they're all ostracizing each other, then that means they're not sharing notes and they're not taking each other's notes seriously. So they might be missing like, oh, and I smelt this particular smell, or I heard this particular sound, because they're all writing down like, I saw a ghost, or I saw Bigfoot, or I saw a Bigfoot dong.
Yeah. So I think a lot of this too, I guess for me, I started researching Bigfoot since I was a kid, man. I grew up in the Pacific Northwest. I grew up in Humboldt County, like in the woods. And as a teenager, growing pot, and meeting old dudes that lived out in the sticks, and they would just see Bigfoot.
That sounds weird.
Yeah,
smoking pot,
a feral child,
smoking and growing pot. I mean, that's Humboldt County, dude. You just kind of grow up with pot smoke blowing in your face.
No, I get it.
And so like I was talking to old men talking about Bigfoot out there. And so I've been searching for it my whole life. And so, I've been into cryptozoology, and then I would hear these stories, especially, talking about these stories that had to do with interdimensional Bigfoot. So like I would always hear about him being a flesh and blood creature. And then you'd also hear these stories of Bigfoot appearing and disappearing and cloaking and appearing at these different times and having like psychic communications with people, like nonverbal communication. And so this is kind of what kind of dug us into this kind of research. And it is really interesting, man. So like, I guess I like to start with, what is Bigfoot? Can
I just say one thing before we get into Bigfoot? I really honestly do believe the reason that so much of it's so hard to capture stuff on film is because I think the energy, the electromagnetic signals from all of the equipment affects everything around them and affects people. Like, we don't understand how much EMF is being given off by this, by that, our electrical units, to the point where people don't believe in viruses that and I tend to believe this idea as well, is that, when they installed all the electrical wires, suddenly we had a plague because that energy was affecting our systems, because we're electrical systems, and now we're getting bombarded with other electricity, which is causing our bodies to be weird. The more I do podcasts, I get headaches and I get sick. I do it all the time. I have to be away from these things because even my earplugs I have in. Like, you get these people. Like, I saw a guy playing basketball with the jizz drops in his ear. I'm like, why do you have those in your ears while you're playing basketball? Take them out of your freaking head, dude. But that's just where they are.
For 1 minute. Yeah.
Yeah.
You have a basketball in your hand. Yeah.
That when people tend to see these very in tune with energy entities, they can sense electromagnetic frequency.
And another easier way to think about that too is imagine if everywhere you walked, you were just constantly blowing a dog whistle, right? And like you don't hear it, no one else hears it, and you just in the whole neighborhood, everyone's just blowing dog whistles. And you're like, hey, what happened to all the dogs? Are dogs even real anymore? And it's like, no, you're annoying the shit out of them, right?
No, you're totally right on that, and that does, I believe, affect these entities, whoever they may be.
Yeah, honestly, the
So
best
I think
time and that you feel the best is like when I go camping in the middle of nowhere and I have no signal at all. There's no electricity. There's not even toilets. I got to dig a hole if I need to poop. You know, you feel like a human again, and then you start a fire, and you just like you start getting connected to like whatever this is, source, creation, God, and you just feel like amazing. Yeah, I
That's
definitely
a great T-shirt, by the way. You never feel more human than when you shit in the woods.
Yeah, straight up.
Well, there's full on cities with no Wi-Fi, because there's some people that claim to get real bad migraines, and I'm assuming that's a sixth sense, something different.
I would
on
love
with
to
their brain
move
that we
there.
don't get it. You think you thrive? You think you thrive? You think you?
No,
you think
I would last
no?
a week and then I would leave. I would be like, I'm out of here, dude. I'm not putting up with this bullshit anymore. But I do think that is something to it. So you want to get into who you think Bigfoot is, because we've had some discussions on cryptids on a couple of my shows lately. So I'm interested in hearing your thoughts.
Yeah, man. So, I mean, I guess that is the biggest place to start is what is he? Because I remember I had some pretty like sweet connections with some of the big Bigfoot researchers that have been on all the television shows, you know, some of the famous dudes. And we're sitting there talking theory and we're about to record. And I dropped that I think he's an interdimensional creature. And dude just stops in his track and goes, yeah, I can't talk to you anymore. You know, so there's definitely gatekeepers in this community, especially with the Bigfoot community. He is either flesh and blood. He's some wild monkey that lives in the woods, or nothing. So like if you start talking about interdimensionality, any sort of like, I guess even cryptid, like anything about him, they just lose it. Like, so there are people that are very, very married to their ideas and they cannot see anything outside of the box. And so that's kind of where our research is. And shout out to people like Chaz of the Dead. Shout out to like, there's a few folks out there, like ourselves included. I like to include ourselves in that we are trying to connect with, like what Thomas was saying earlier. We're trying to make the deeper connections between all the different, you know, all the different folks that are looking for UFOs, that are looking for ghosts, that are looking for all these different types of creatures. Because I think if we work together, we use each other's methods. I think you can talk to Bigfoot with a Ouija board. I think you can talk to Bigfoot like using a spirit box. I think we should be using all these different things to try to
Have you tried that? Have you tried taking the Ouija board in the middle of the woods?
I personally am very indoctrinated, like as a child, from Christianity, and I still am a Christian. I've just found my own form of Christianity and God now. My own form of faith.
With that.
Where
got no problems with that.
I'm still afraid of Ouija boards. I'm
Me
not
too. I'm right there with you. Same.
I'm trying not to say GD all the time. I'm like, GD. I'm like, I was rolling in jujitsu and I said that. And I'm like, I shouldn't say that.
It does have some energy though, right? Laughing. It has some pop to it. I don't know if it's because it's taboo or because it actually means something, but it has a little pop. It's a little something extra.
I need to not do it. I'm trying my hardest. But some of the guys on the show, some of the guys on the last couple shows, I don't know if you guys have ever talked to the Appalachian Intelligence podcast. I love those guys. They were just on and they brought up something very interesting, which was whether these cryptids could be Nephilim.
Yeah, dude. We definitely we did get into that. We're gonna talk about that.
So that's maybe like the most OG story if you go through like the Bible as one of the examples, right? So the Nephilim could potentially be the like the Watchers come down, you know, they have their time with people. The Nephilim
Are you
come
into
out
that
of that
story at all?
What's that?
Are you into the story of the fallen angels?
I'm into it. I think it's an awesome story. I like comic books, so it's like one of the best comic books ever. You know, shout out to the Noah comic too that Aronofsky made into that crazy ass movie. But the story is that the Watchers mate with people. People create these like Nephilim giant things, and then from there, the more that you keep breeding humans with giants, they just keep getting shorter and shorter and shorter until the giants maybe go away. But then Bigfoot, they even have a lot of relations to him being like a descendant of Cain. Like he had that original mark of Cain, the man-eater, the horrible smell, the horrible look, almost has like a Grendel kind of creature, right? So if you go with that, Bigfoot has this horrible like cursed connotation to it, which is totally different than the Native American aspect where he's a protector, he's venerated. So I think there's room for both of them, because to me, let's just say that you don't believe in Bigfoot at all, but isn't it fascinating how many cultures have this exact same story? It's got red hair, it's got coarse wiry hair, it smells, it's big, it lives in the mountains or into the recluded forest, it's scared of people. Like it has all of these very specific components to it. And it's like, did one person go around and preach that? Because if you came to another country and they all had the same religion, the conquistadors and the missionaries used to come here and be like, oh my God, their gods are kind of similar to ours. So either the devil came here and gave them a bunch of like devil, information before we were able to come here and give them the truth. Either that, or there really is some kind of a similarity that people universally observed and take note of.
I think it's the second thing. I think there's universal, connection, and we all say it in different ways, and as you were speaking about that, I was just thinking about how like, I just reject anything the Vatican has pushed on us. And part of that is timelines as well. Like the amount of time we've been around. I think we've been around for a while, and that's why the story of Jesus has been told so many different ways by so many different freaking cultures but they're all telling the same story. It's just at a different time. That's my opinion. And that's why you can hear the same stuff from the natives that you might hear from Latin America, or you might hear from, the Middle East and stuff like that. That's why they all talk the same stories, in my humble opinion.
Well, I definitely think there's like centuries missing. I'm pretty sure like when they talk about like, I'm like, there's no way you got every 100, 200, 300, 400. I'm pretty sure. I mean, I haven't gone down like every year, but I mean, there's got to be years missing. And shit happens in every year where, like Sam says, there's a bunch missing by the Vatican. That all those books, they have a lot of books too that they won't let you read for a reason.
Yeah, I mean, if I took over the world, that's the first thing I would do. I would just go to the Vatican, go, we're taking the books.
They've probably burnt more than they've kept too. So if you consider that, how much knowledge has been lost forever at a time.
I like to think they kept it, but yeah, you might be right. They might have burned it all. I don't know.
I just think it's crazy, dude. All right, so let's get into some a little more Bigfoot. What were you gonna say about Bigfoots before I jumped in and
so I was gonna say this? Well, we can start with what we think Bigfoot is. So let's talk about physical Bigfoot, if he is a physical flesh and blood creature, and then we can get into interdimensional aspects, and then we can even get weirder if we think he's something even stranger. So like one thing that we can talk about and start with, I guess, is we can talk about if this was like a Nephilim thing, right? So like they even talk about it, and the whole idea of the Watchers and the angels and the Nephilim, it also ties in. It sounds very much reminiscent to me of like the Anunnaki, like the gods, like they could have been the Watchers, and the creation, like the Gigi and things like that. And so that we could have been these hominids that were here. We could have been these creatures, kind of like ape-like creatures that they took and genetically modified and kind of turned us into like half gods, half monkey or hominid sort of thing like that. And I kind of think perhaps, and one of the ideas is, one of the theories is that Bigfoot might be some of our long lost cousins in that way, that maybe they're some of those hominids that didn't get genetically modified. They're still like humans, but without the Anunnaki touch, without the God touch. And so that's almost the opposite of like the Nephilim, but that we are the Nephilim, that we are the half God, half ape. And that's what like differentiates us, because like gorillas and things like that have like 98% same DNA as us. But what's different about us? Our consciousness, like our ability to talk, like we're talking through seer stones right now. This is magic that we're using right now to communicate like all over the world. You're in Florida. I'm in Oregon. Sam, are you in LA or where the heck are you? I don't even know where you're at.
Sadly.
Yeah. And so like, and we're using this right now to talk. So, I mean, that's a fascinating idea. And like, I love, there's all kinds of stuff though. So, as far as like a biblical connection of what we think, maybe this is, again, there's, you can hear my baby yelling in the background. Sorry.
That's okay. We love kids on the show.
So, like, I love the story of Jacob and Esau. I don't know if you've heard this about like Abraham, right? So Abraham, he had two sons. He had Jacob and Esau. And even in the womb, his mom was talking about how, because they were twins, that they were struggling inside her. And she said that God said that there's two nations in her womb, and that they were separated, but that they were two manner of people, and that they should be separated by the bowels, that one shall be stronger and the older shall serve the younger. And you talk about Esau. Esau was like, he was into wild game. He was into hunting. He was bigger and taller and stronger. He was hairier. He was said to smell. He had this strong odor about him. And so there's this story of Jacob stealing Esau's blessing. And so like Jacob had to pretend to be his brother, because his brother was the older one. He was going to get the blessing. He was going to get like the land, the money, everything. He was going to get the big inheritance. And so the brother was supposed to go hunt some wild game and bring it back to Isaac and make him a meal, or Abraham and make him a meal. And so Jacob goes in there and sneaks up in there and like cooks, like kills a lamb real fast, makes the meal, brings it to him. And he goes, "Hey Dad, I brought it to you." And Esau's still out there like trying to hunt the game. And he has to put on his clothing so that he would smell like his brother, because his brother had a really strong smell. To me, that smells like Bigfoot, like that strong aroma. And he said that he had to put on sheep's wool over his arms, and his dad had to feel how hairy he was, to know that it was his brother, you know. And it's just fascinating. And the two had a separation and they broke. It's really fascinating. So I almost like some of the stories in the Bible I look at as more of parables than actual, like, this is actually what happened. And so it could be talking about those, like, there are two nations in my womb and they shall be separated, like Bigfoot and the hairy man, and then us. And to build on that, what I love is, so I talk about this in 1959, there was this, I'm going to screw up his name. He was a Russian geneticist and scientist.
We allowed that on the show.
His name was Dmitry Belyayev. I think you say that correctly, but this was the Russian fox experiment. And so this Russian scientist started playing around with these foxes. And so he had like a farm with some foxes, and he brought some foxes to him that were nicer, the ones that would kind of eat food out of your hand, the one that might come and sniff you, lick you, something like that. And then there was the foxes that were kind of like offish, skittish, more aggressive, would probably bite you if you tried to go pat it, you know, that sort of thing. And he separated the two, and he put them in their own like areas, and he let the nice ones breed with the nice ones, the more aggressive ones breed with the more aggressive ones. And within like 2 or 3 generations, the nicer foxes, their ears started to turn and fold like this, like a dog. They started growing spots. They started like acting more like dogs. They would just come up to you and let you play with them and pet them. And vice versa. The more aggressive ones started growing like bristlier, more wool like this, started getting more aggressive, started looking more like wolves. Their fangs started getting like, and so it's this interesting idea. And the same is true with pigs. So like domesticated pigs, if you take a domesticated pig, a big, cute, pink, little big fat pig, and you throw them outside and you throw them in the woods, within like a few weeks, they start to grow like bristly hair. They start growing tusks. They start getting more wild and more aggressive. And what is that? So I love the idea that we are the domesticated humans. We are like the descendants of Jacob, and Bigfoot might be the more wild version of Esau, of his generations, of these people that are our cousins. Basically, they're just the more wild version of us, the ones that grew up in the woods. And so that also gets us into like the tales of the European wild men. and these big, crazy, like these are all documented stories of like these European wild hairy men that were in Europe that were like 8-10 feet tall, big, hairy, smelly, the giants. Like this ties into the giants. And dude, I just love all of these stories.
Well, and I want to tag on to that too, because since we're talking about, aliens and ghosts and Bigfoot, there's this common trope of like the aliens come and they pluck a human down and they do all kinds of weird experimentation on them and stuff. But if you imagine that, like, what if the Bigfoot really was human V1, right? That's the OG human. It's like the uncut raw. That's kind of the one that you would want to keep in like the pantry to always go back to. So, I mean, there's another premise that it's not aliens that are like keeping humans for us. It's like the humans that are now keeping maybe like the original man somewhere, because that original man is like the source and you don't want to lose the source. It's like that movie Prometheus where like they had the original goo from God, but then once they try to make their own goo because they ran out of the God goo, then everything kind of like, goes downhill.
I think it's interesting. I think it's so interesting. I wonder if there's just, like I believe in multiple dimensions. I believe each one of us is our own dimension. The way we see the world, the way I have people like people still wearing masks, like no matter how much data is out there, regardless of what you think of CNN, they just had Fauci on. They got him to admit there's no data that says that masks work. There's not.
I live right outside of Portland, and I tell you, when you cross over, it is a different dimension.
It's a different dimension, dude. I'm telling you. And it's just like they're in their own reality. It's like it's a simpler version of Rick and Morty's, where it's like you just show up and it's quantum leap. What are the fucking rules here so I can survive, figure out what I'm here to fix, and get the fuck out? And that's kind of what these realities are. So if we think we as individuals have our own reality, or cities have their own realities and all that stuff, why can't there be, even all around us, interdimensional entities that are walking around that we never interact with, and they never interact with us until they want to interact with us? Why isn't that possible in this realm of infinite possibilities?
100%, dude. 100%. Yeah, it gets real interesting. We'll dip into that, because we definitely dip into that. So back to physical reality too. If he is physical here, flesh and blood, this was a theory that probably one of the first theories that really got me into this too was like, on my honeymoon with my wife, we went to Yellowstone, and then we went to the Grand Tetons, and we took this little boat ride to this place called Elk Island, and we're sitting there talking to the park ranger, and she's telling us that like if you accidentally like hit a deer with your car, that's like a $10,000 fine. Like no ifs, no buts, 10,000. And then she was like, I don't even care if like a mountain lion is mauling your child. if you shoot that mountain lion, that's a $10,000 fine. And they're just like hardcore.
First of all, now I would never call them. I would shoot the mountain lion, throw everybody in the car, and leave.
Well, you think that's what I said. She was like, well, yeah, that's a good idea, except that we have all of our animals chipped.
Yeah.
And because she told us a story that like a while back, like somebody had hit a deer and like did a hit and run real fast, and they knew the second that deer died, because they're all chipped, and when that thing's heart stopped beating or was hurt, or was moving erratically, they knew. They shut down all of the entrances and exits.
Whoa.
They went through every single campsite, went through every single parking lot till they found the car with the blood, and they're like, this one's got blood and fur on it. Find the dude, he got in trouble. And so like that was getting me like this whole idea, because I'd heard these stories, again talking to some of like listeners and like some folks that have been on the show, past guests, and talking about Bigfoot, these stories about Bigfoot being shot. And the second that somebody would shoot Bigfoot, they would go down there and they would be met with a Men in Black. Like a man in black would be standing there and be like, "You didn't see shit.
What?
In fact, get out of here."
Wow.
And like they would take the body would be gone, and they'd be like, and the man in black said, "You didn't see a damn thing," you know. And so it had this like it opened up this whole theory for me that like maybe because there's so much land that is like owned by the government, like hundreds and hundreds of thousands of acres. They
Yeah.
make, like free range like little areas that are like shut off to like to us, that they have Bigfoot that like live there, they have them chipped, they track them. That this is like, how much fun would this be? Like I hate the government, I'm a hard anarchist, but how much fun would it be to be one of these like men in black dudes that like your whole job is just to keep track of Bigfoot, and like if one gets out of that zone you have to go hunt him down before some hunter shoots him, you know. So that I love playing with that idea of him being a physical creature here. That's a lot of fun.
So if they have him in a camp, couple of them like in a concentration camps, the ones we see, is that like
nobody said they were Jews, bro. Nobody said they were Jews. I don't know what you're talking about.
These poor Bigfoot.
Hey guys, I want to tell you about Factor, America's #1 ready-to-eat meal kit. Listen, with the busy fall season already in swing, you might be looking for wholesome, convenient meals for jam-packed days. Factor, America's #1 ready-to-eat meal kit, can help you fuel up fast with chef-prepared, dietitian-approved, ready-to-eat meals delivered straight to your door. You save time, eat well, and stay on track with your healthy lifestyle.
And if you're too busy this fall to cook, but you want to make sure you're eating well, with Factor, you can skip the extra trip to the grocery store and the chopping, the prep, and the cleaning up too, while still getting the flavor and nutritional quality you need. Factor's fresh, never frozen meals are ready in just 2 minutes. So all you have to do is heat and enjoy, then get back to crushing your goals. And if you're looking for calorie-conscious options during the busy season, try delicious, dietitian-approved, calorie-smart meals with around or less than 550 calories per serving. And if you need an extra boost to support your wellness goals and feel your best as you tackle a busy autumn, try their Protein Plus meals with 30 grams of protein or more per serving. Round out your meal and replenish your snack supply with an assortment of 45 plus add-ons, including breakfast items like their delicious apple cinnamon pancakes, bacon and cheddar egg bites, and potato, bacon, egg, and breakfast skillet. That sounds great. Or for an easy wellness boost, try refreshing beverage options like cold-pressed juices, shakes, and smoothies.
This September, get Factor and enjoy eating well without the hassle. Simply choose your meal and enjoy fresh, flavor-packed meals delivered to your door. Ready in just 2 minutes, no prep, no mess. So here's what I want you to do, guys. Here's what you do. Head to factormeals.com/tinfoil50 and use the code tinfoil50 to get 50% off. That's code tinfoil50 at factormeals.com/tinfoil50 to get 50% off. Grub and love.
Yeah, but you have them. You think the ones that we see, you think it's a runaway? You think it got away?
We'll see. Yes, I think that there are some free ones. And I love this story too, because this was another guest that we had on that was explaining to us like the hierarchies of Bigfoot and these actual vast cities that they have. They have these underground cities and like these like elaborate, like high technological areas. And that Bigfoot is actually much more advanced than us and has like this whole civilization. And that when we encounter one of these Bigfoot in the middle of the woods, he says that's like running into our homeless.
That's hilarious.
I know. I love
that.
It
Is actually hilarious. And such a great idea too. That's hilarious. That
But there could be something to that. Because Sam, you were mentioning the missing 411, and that's where you overlay people that have gone missing from, like public parks and campsites, and it overlays with this underground tunnel system. And when you consider how many deep underground military bases there are, if there's even a 1% chance that there is a underground tunnel network of Bigfoot, then one of those dumbs must have intersected with it at some point.
That's so interesting.
I love that map. So yeah, that missing 411 map, you can overlay it with the deep underground cave systems, and there's a huge correlation. And then this is one that I think it might have been Chris Matthews. Shout out to Chris Matthews from Forbidden Knowledge News. I think he was the one that told us, maybe not. But if you throw on a Bigfoot sighting map on top of that as well, huge correlation. So the missing 411, the underground cave system, and Bigfoot sightings have a huge covering, and it's super fascinating.
So one of my favorite shows.
Are you talking about these?
Mm-hmm.
That's it exactly.
Oh, what's this map of gay aliens and swamps? Damn.
Nah,
Don't
but
click the gay aliens one. No, we don't need that. So in Ontario, where two twin brothers do their comedy show, the Smash Twins, they got the Dirty Show, and I do it every once in a while. And they were telling me that way out there is a Scientology bunker. And this is like a big plot of land that Scientology has. And you'll drive by it and you'll see people like trying to escape, trying to wave you down. And you just keep going, dude. And it's like some weird kind of, and law enforcement don't fuck with them. And they're almost trying to breed like more Scientologist shit. But something's going on there. Like I've always said that Scientology is a naval intelligence operation because, you know, L. Ron Hubbard was Navy intelligence. And it wouldn't doubt they had a certain place where they were running little weird experiments like intelligence agencies like to do. And what's going on deep inside that bunker that Scientology owns out there. And I think it's interesting. And I think that like everything for me is feel. Like, how's that resonate with me? And what you just said right there really resonates with me. There's something to it.
Yeah, it's fascinating. And just more on Scientology, too. I mean, Scientology did a bunch of like infiltration into the IRS and into the FBI. And I like so many times, I think the government uses some of these like groups, these private quote unquote groups, or even something like a religion that is even more protected. Because then they have that First Amendment right to practice, you know, their religion the way they see fit and things like that. I mean, the government can absolutely use those types of places to do things that they want to do, like dirty work, you know, and because then you can't do like a Freedom of Information Act. Like I can't go like to Scientology and be like, hey, I want to know this. They're like, get out of here. You know?
It's like with torture as well, like why they take these prisoners to countries where torture is legal, so there's plausible deniability.
We're not torturing anybody.
Yeah, that's the Saudi government. We don't know what you're talking about. Like
I was just saying another sync I had to look up, that thing that Nate was talking about where they were Scientology was infiltrating the government. That was called Operation Snow White. And that's one of like, I mean, respect. At least it's like the biggest time that any third party has infiltrated the government successfly. So even if you hate Scientology, I mean,
outside of Israel, yeah, totally, 100%. You know, I mean, they're everywhere openly. Dual citizenship.
That's like the calls coming from inside the house, though. No,
yeah, 100%. 100%. I mean, well, Scientology is basically the Navy infiltrating Hollywood at the highest levels, and they use
Crowley.
it through. And what's that?
And Crowley, that was the like OTO making its way all the way over to the West Coast, and then like there was this funny dynamic where L. Ron Hubbard was kind of simping for Crowley, and Crowley was like, "God, this guy's annoying." One of those nasty looking, you know, DSLs on his face, and he just wanted to chill with Parsons. So Crowley's like, "Man, if I get in with Parsons, then maybe Senpai will notice me," and it never took off for him. But ironically, Crowley gave birth to what we call stars and celebrities. He thought everyone was a star. And then Elron was like, bam, Elron pops up in the middle of Hollywood, and now he's got all the stars.
Whoa. I did not know that. That's crazy and totally makes sense, because Crowley warned Jack Parsons about what a weasel L. Ron Hubbard was. But L. Ron Hubbard was Navy intelligence sent in to infiltrate Jack Parsons' occult ring that was fucking around with space rockets, which is how NASA became. But I do believe the reason why when you not all things, but a lot of things that pop up out of nowhere that suddenly pay no taxes, that's to me a sign that your government, right? Like Amazon to me is full on government. It's just, it looks like it's a private business, but it's really the government. And they're like, Amazon paid no taxes. Well, why would the government pay taxes to itself? These are demoralization things that they do. But when you take a look at Scientology, which was able to enact that religious exemption, tax exemption, that to me kind of adds credence to that. There is some intelligence behind the growth of Scientology and how they operate and how they basically find out if you're gay in Hollywood, and they try to blackmail you. But as being gay becomes less and less, once it fully comes out Obama is gay, I think nobody's going to give a shit about gay anymore. I mean, outside of the cultural Marxism in schools, people aren't going to care as long as you're leaving kids alone. So they're going to have to come up with something else. I think will be pedophilia, will be the way they control you. But if you take a look at these things, this is how they infiltrate and this is how they control people. But
I was gonna say you're so right, because I've been watching like CNN, like a little bits of it talking about Tucker Carlson and the Obama thing, and they're like, well, who cares? Who cares if Obama's gay? Like,
ultimately,
I don't care.
There's soft landing.
I don't care either, but you're right. They're gonna act like who cares, and it's gonna be a who cares thing, and then you're not gonna be able to use it as blackmail anymore because who cares?
Yeah, I mean, basically, people are going to be, I think we're already at a point where nobody really gives a shit if you're gay, but the reason they'll use it is if you're portraying something that you're not, you're pushing something that is dangerous, maybe, I guess. Like the whole thing about, Obama being gay is like, that's the least of the things that you should be upset with him about. He's lying about sexuality, I mean, he did something worse than Watergate when he tapped Trump. And regardless of what you think of Trump, that's worse than what Nixon did. Nixon got ran out, and then, Uranium One, giving money to the Iranians, all this crazy shit that Obama got to do because you couldn't criticize him. That to me is much worse than everything that they're trying to come up with.
Yeah, forgiving all of that stuff, like starting brand new wars, illegal wars without congressional authorization.
Yeah, that is probably
I don't care
the
about
worst.
That's what all this is, a soft disclosure, because Big Mike is going to pop out the willy, and that's what this is all about.
No, I mean, we were talking on the last show, like, I think they're going to ride Biden to the very last moment. And then it will be so deep into the 2024 election that nobody else will be able to mount opposition in the Democratic Party. And that's when they bring out Big Mike in all of his dick swinging glory.
Dude, and can you imagine, I mean, Big Mike and Trump in a room, they're sitting there, they're doing, oh man, what do they call that? The debates, and Big Mike just throws out that hog.
Yeah.
Game over. Big Mike wins.
If he doesn't, Trump's gonna call her out on it.
Yes.
Well, one thing he will not call her is her. I guarantee you. He'll be like, Big Mike is full of shit.
It's going to turn into an actual dick size contest.
But that's how bad the Democrats have it, that they have to wait to the last second to bring out Big Mike, because there's nobody on that side that is worth anything. So it's like, this is all the psychological demoralization campaign that is into. But going back to what you're talking about, these bases, I think what is happening underground is so insane that it's like what is also really crazy is like all this UFO disclosure and nobody cares.
Yeah.
Like nobody cares. I don't know if they're cool with that, or they're like, what the fuck, man? We're trying to tell you that there's aliens and nobody gives a shit. Like, I always love when a giant psyop or false flag event happens. I run to Instagram and see how the Instagram models are handling it, and they don't give a shit. I guarantee you, if Instagram was around on 9/11, there would still be butthole shots being uploaded to Instagram instantly that day with it somehow loving America.
They put a little pin, a little flag, a little black,
or they put a plane
in
going into
left.
their butthole, going never forget.
Working on the rubble. Yeah.
Yeah, twerking on the rubble, right. right? Or you know, some
10% of my OnlyFans revenue will be going
yeah.
to the victims of 9/11
Yeah,
this month.
10% of my buy my OnlyFans right now. These all proceeds from my DP scene go to the victims of 9/11. That's completely what they would do.
Well, yeah, it's double penetration like the towers.
Yeah. Oh, bang! There we go. There we go. Bang! Welcome to the adult show. But I think they have underground bases, tunnels. I think all of that stuff is all there, and I love the idea that there's giant parts of this country that people aren't allowed into. What is happening in that area? And I'm sure that is space that you can't even send a drone in if you wanted to.
Yeah,
right. People talk about how like Antarctica is cordoned off and no one can get beyond the Arctic wall, right? But imagine how hard would it be to regulate that huge landmass? Well, now if you've just got one entrance into this deep underground military base, and that entrance is in like the side of a mountain, and you have to go through like 10 different doors that are all guarded. Now all of a sudden you've got a spot you really could keep something completely invisible, even to the point where it can't even be seen by ground penetrating radar, which is how they like find those underground cave systems. But if you know to protect yourself from that, you know, there's like a Faraday cage equivalent to being able to kind of hide yourself underground. So it seems like it would make the most sense. That's where the military was telling civilians to do for the longest time, for over half a century. It was like burrow down underground. And I think they realized like, oh, maybe we want to be the ones that survive, and just tell them they can, you know, hide like 6 feet underground in the cellar, even though we know that's nowhere near deep enough, because those deep underground military bases go down like, you know, miles.
And I love the theory that
just put on a mask, crawl into your desk like they taught us in elementary school. We'll be fine.
Yeah. Dude, a nuclear bomb is dropped. Get under your desk.
Yeah.
And it's like that's straight out Fight Club. Like, put on your seatbelt for when the plane crashes. Right? It's just so ridiculous, but you're 100% right. And the whole theory is like, oh, we've only dug like what? 10 miles into, you know, the Earth's crust. You're like, well, that's what you're telling us.
Well, that's Russia dug, I think, like the super deep bore. It was like 7 point something miles, but there was also some top secret underground underwater digging that we did with Howard Hughes, I think in like the 50s or 60s, and they were trying to drill at the ocean crust because that's closer, so you don't have to drill as deep. And that was so highly sort of like coveted and hidden. I wonder if anyone has ever actually unveiled that. And it was crazy when Ghislaine Maxwell came out and showed that they were doing like this underwater sort of like sea research. So I feel like there might be something to that. And if there are Nephilim, and if there are underwater, you know, groups and like these huge vast systems, it seems like they would be the ones that had the resources in order to actually figure that out.
I mean, I just think it's so, I mean, just as much as I know, and let's say my show with Brian Callen, as little as he knows, and as much as I know, I guarantee you, as much as I know, what is really going on is way, way deeper, even beyond my understanding. Even though I think I have a good understanding of the world we live in, I think there's even more that will, it's like, sometimes I wonder, like, are we going to run out of things to talk about on the show? And then I realize it is a bottomless pit of chaos, and it will just keep going, because there'll be things that present itself when you dig deep enough. You know, it's like you keep digging, you grab something like, what is this? And then this just opens an entire world that you didn't even know existed. And now it's like you go next to the deeper one and the deeper one, and it's just so chaotic. And how dark and crazy is it going to get? That's the question. I
think it's ironic because that's also what's breaking some of the PSYOP programming, like you mentioned, Sam. Like they drop this new, blue beam, and it's like the aliens are invading, and everyone's like, yeah, but also like the new season of, like RuPaul's Drag Race is on, so I'll pay attention to this first, and then I'll go and do the alien thing. And it's like, we're so good at entertaining ourselves at this point that we can just like watch a TV show to like mom and dad arguing, right? Or in this case, like a war in Ukraine or something. It's like, yeah. Let me know when the commercials are over.
No, I agree with everything you say, dude. I really do. Like, it is insane at how much we don't pay attention. It's almost like they've trained us to like, we only pay attention every 4 years. And that's like, in order to have like what used to be 3 years of just living your life now, which isn't sort of that, because they're constantly throwing these psyops at us and trying to, global controls have to be imposed. That's really what they're trying to do to us constantly. And I think even that at some point is going to grow old, that they're just not going to listen to anybody. And I don't know if that's good or bad, because when no one's paying attention, even if you're telling them, what can you get away with? But I do believe that like they're losing control of the narrative. And that's why, like we talked on the last show, they are now blatantly placing people controlled opposition into these movements left and right. Like, like we talked in the last episode, the manosphere is like, it's just riddled with feds.
Oh yeah.
They're all like, women are whores. You got to call them out. You're okay, Fed. They're all feds, because anybody who blows up overnight, you're like, how did you naturally blow up talking about these things that if anyone else did it, you would get shadow banned to hell?
Straight up, dude. Yeah, there's so many feds and that kind of stuff, dude. Because I mean, there are like rightful like things that men could if you want to be a wiener and whine about it. Men have it hard in a lot of different ways. Like if you talk about like paternity stuff, like in marriage, like the women will get the upper hand and things like that. And so there are men that have been hurt, and like so there's that whole like and then you see the dudes that are just like, women are whores, treat them like shit, like, and you're like people like people get mad at me for like, but I think Andrew Tate's a fed. I think he's a giant piece of shit. Like I don't know why anybody looks up to this guy.
For sure. 100%. I think he's a fucking fed, because he's everywhere, and it's like, oh, it's his premium content. He gives money for people to spread shit. I'm like, okay, that's what they tell you. But I want to get into. Go on.
Well, I was gonna ask you, do you guys think that if this UFO disclosure happened in the early 2000s, it'd be different? You think we'd be freaking out? You think we'd be freaking 100%. Out? Yeah. So you just think it's the times?
I think it would have. I think if it happened during Obama's years, I think it would have a way different effect. I think as you get closer to Bush is dealing with all these false wars. People are waking up that they got lied to on that stuff. So I don't know if it would have the same effect right there, but like, there was a different time during Obama. It was like just basically like people just yelling meanie at each other the whole time, even though he was doing all these illegal wars, but we weren't being told about it the same way. It was more about cultural wars. I think there was a time that the UFO disclosure would have had a bigger impact during that.
And social media wasn't the same either. I was just going to say social media wasn't the same either, and people weren't in their own echo chambers altogether yet. People were still more
we weren't as siloed.
Yeah, they were more and more dependent on the media and things like that. But the media, especially over 2020 and things like that, has kind of spent their load. You know what I mean? Like nobody's listening to them anymore. They've lost almost all credibility. You catch them in lies constantly. And so it's almost a perfect time to be dropping this disclosure, because nobody's going to believe it anyways. And so they can put out the right misinformation. And there are some folks that are listening to it. Like I have some friends that are all about it, and they're like, oh my God, did you know that like there is aliens, and they're talking about it now, but they're almost like in their own little world and things like that. So
but
the
doesn't that itself?
Yeah, it is interesting, man. It is.
But isn't that itself, the fact that the government's telling you about it, make you question what really is happening? I had a woman come on, and she says she talked to this council, this galactic council. And even though I'm getting into Christianity, I'm open-minded to it. I'm hearing what you have to say. I'm not dismissing anybody. Everybody's welcome to to speak what they think is going on. And she goes, the real Project Bluebeam is going to be the government trying to convince you that they're doing a false alien encounter when something will actually come down, which I found very interesting because that would fit in. So when I see all these whistleblowers coming out and saying something, oh my God, giving you the information about the aliens, I go, how's this person walking free all the time? Yeah. Like when you do whistleblowing, your life becomes miserable. They make your life miserable. That's why you have to have whistleblower protection. Remember the chick who came out like, I'm going to tell you about Facebook. You're like, okay, Fed, whatever, Fed, the way she was talking. So that even in itself makes me wonder what is going on with. So we had the Bloodsoes on, and like, I believe them. I believe in what they're seeing. I believe in all that stuff. What they're showing us. It's interesting.
That talks about it too. So like, what if like this disclosure is them trying to get ahead of it and trying to control it and occult it? So, I mean, yes, actually might be something that's happening. And so I like to get into this too, because like there might be something that they've known about for a long time. And they know that it's now with social media, with people talking about their encounters. Like I've had orb encounters that I can't explain, that I find freaky and crazy. And maybe that was a government, type of thing. I don't know. But what I will say is that there are people talking about real abductions, real alien encounters, and maybe the government talking about this now is them trying to, like I said, trying to get a hold of it and trying to control the narrative because they know it's coming out.
That makes sense. That completely makes sense. How if it's real, they got to get a hold of it. They got to get ahead of it. And they're like, let's act like we're in it. And these dumbasses won't believe it because they don't believe anything we tell them.
They do that with art movements all the time. When they see an art movement beginning to grow, they want to get their people in the position to kind of, if the art movement's going like this, they kind of want to get their person to, so it goes like that, just a little bit different, so they can control the narrative whenever they want. But the problem is now is like, I think the consumer of information is a lot more savvy, and it's harder and harder to pull psyops on people because people can smell them way more than they used to be able to. And that becomes itself its own. How can we create a psyop that sticks?
Yeah.
And I think COVID was them, like you said, blowing their load. And I think they're out of bullets, and they're like scrambling to figure out how we're going to do the next thing. But I do believe this is them trying to get ahead of what may be coming.
So I don't know how much more time we have, but do you guys want to hop into some interdimensionality?
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
Okay. So I love all of this stuff with like the aliens and different things like that too. Because they describe things, especially like, Thomas, what's the one in Utah where what's the ranch that everybody talks about?
Skinwalker Ranch?
Skinwalker, right? Where there's been some people that have seen like little Bigfoots in the same time they've seen these orbs and they've seen these like little creatures. And so that leads me to believe that sometimes these Bigfoot encounters are interdimensional. And like I said, I've had some folks on the show that have talked about these Bigfoot encounters that they've had personally, where they've sat there, and as soon as they made eye-to-eye contact with this creature that they saw, this thing, it created like a mind-to-mind contact with them, and they were able to like start communicating, and they bring these encounters home with them. So like I have a friend, his name's Scott, great guy, he's been on the show, and he has these communications where it's almost like a trickster entity that like these young Bigfoots will like basically come home with him, not in a physical way, but they'll appear to him in these interdimensional ways. And he says they hide his keys, they do all these things, they mess with him, they play with him, and they have these long like conversations with him. And there's all these really fascinating stuff that we could get into as far as like interdimensional Bigfoot. But I also want to start talking about like, because especially when we start talking about Bigfoot, there are these like occult groups that claim to, like we've had some folks on the show that have talked about it, these occult groups that will actually have full on like seances where they do these like rituals and they will summon a Bigfoot. And this Bigfoot will like appear to them almost like if you're like casting like it sounds to me like you're trying to bring a demon. It scares the heck out of me. But they bring these Bigfoots there, and then they converse with them. They worship them. They have these like full on, there's like secret societies that are based around Bigfoot and these different like mythological creatures. And so it gets really weird when you dig into it.
It's totally weird. Listen, I think this is all crazy. I hate to change subject because I'm looking at some of the stuff that you brought up. Lilith, can we get into some Lilith real quick? Because this fits into something that was said on the show. I don't know which episode it was, but it was recently that a lot of the pagan gods may be fallen angels and Nephilim and all that stuff. So that resonate that. So my whole thing with this show since I started is I have a giant puzzle in front of me. It's incomplete. I have a couple pieces, and every time I get information, I go oh, a piece, and I does it click into the puzzle? And that to me clicks into the puzzle.
You're actually you're not changing topics. Actually, it fits right in. Yeah, Thomas, you want to talk about it? Because if these are these creatures, they are gods almost, or they're gods to these people, like to the occult, to these groups, to these elite. And Thomas, you want to hop in there about?
Yeah, I'm just saying really quickly with Lilith. Doja Cat just had a album cover or something where she dressed as Lilith, just covered in blood, which is imagery we've seen in like True Blood in the past. They actually called the character Lilith, just covered in blood.
She's an interesting person, and there's a lot of darkness around that chick, a lot of darkness. And I again, we have a certain age, and I'm the oldest one here. It's kind of hypocritical for us to be calling out hip hop when we all loved metal in the 80s and 90s, but it has gotten really dark. Like really dark, and it's so blatant. I think that's why it's shocking. It's just so blatant. And as much as people might complain that hip hop gets different treatment than metal did, just so you know, back in the day, Ozzy and all them, they had people like taking their records, sending them on fire. They were outlaws. This new crop of hip hop Satanists, they're like sponsored by Nickelodeon, Jamba Juice, Nike. Like it's like a totally different way of acceptance from the public than it was back when these guys did. And I'm not saying what they did was better or more real, but there was a pushback. Now I think the pushback is coming. You hear that hip hop is starting to wane, that people aren't liking the energy of hip hop. And you're actually talking to people of kids who are in their early teens, and they're moving from hip hop back into metal.
But if the algorithm decides it just wants to push more and more of, Doja Cat or whatever, then just through repetition, people can start to like it, right? Just because of that powerful drug nostalgia. If you pump that stuff at your kid all day and then they grow up and they hear it again, there's just going to be an instant connection. The same way that I still like He-Man, even though knowing that it was made just to sell me a product and there was really not like a deep story behind it, but I still like it. You know what I mean? Because like I'm attached to that nostalgia.
Dude, I get myself. I love
He-Man.
Yeah, and I get myself. I catch myself singing to Cardi B and shit, like you said, because they play it so much. And sometimes I'll be like, "Why am I singing this shit?" And then you change the radio station. But like you said, it just works, and it works with the brain. They know exactly how your brain works.
Exactly. I mean, dude, I don't care how hard you are. You listen to a Taylor Swift song, you're like, "Hey, I like this beat. It's kind of good beat. I get it, man. Now we got Bad Blood. I like it. I like that."
My go-to karaoke is always Katy Perry. So,
oh yeah, she's darkness. Her and her dark arts titties. Those things are dark arts titties.
This all segues perfectly, though, because we were talking about Lilith, and Lilith is just this embodiment of like all of these different taboos together. And I mean, to grossly oversimplify stuff, but a Lil was like a storm god. It was like a god of the wind. And there's also this crazy connection we won't go completely into, but of like the whole Moloch and Baal and like goat worship and the horned god worship and agriculture and Lilith, because again, Lil were these storm demons, and every agricultural god tends to be a wind or a storm god. Zeus, even in the Native Americans and in South America, the storm gods were usually these agriculture that you would do these sacrifices for. But so Lilith becomes this like singular goddess, and then turned into like almost a biblical Abrahamic tale. But Lilith was the original wife of Adam, and what made her unique is that she was also made out of clay.
Tell me about this, because I've never heard this.
So Lilith, this is on like Apocrypha. This isn't in the normal KJV, right? So Lilith, and I think there's a book called the Book of Lilith, and she's the first wife to Adam in this garden, but she's made out of clay just like Adam was, so she's an equal to Adam, and she disgraces Adam in this way that like she loves Adam, she's got the hots for him, but she wants to be on top. And this is legit, this is actually in these original stories, and Adam is not having it because he doesn't want to feel dominated. He wants to feel like the domineering one.
Are we talking sex position?
We're talking sex position. 100%. This is 100%.
Oh my God.
So Adam
would be happy if a chick wants to get on top and actually work. That's how far we've come.
Yeah, he didn't like it, bro. He was, for whatever reason, they don't get into it, but he didn't like it, and he complains to God, and God's like, all right, dude, let me get a rib here. And now this, like the symbolism here, I don't want to get too lost in the sauce, but man, it's like, I want you to create a companion that is made from me, so therefore is inherently subservient to me, because I can't deal with this female that's my equal. So I need you to make one that's like from me, so that I'm always, superior to it. And Lilith doesn't take this well because she likes Adam's magic stick, right? So what she does is in the middle of the night, she'll ride him, and he'll wake up and be like, oh, I had this sexy dream last night, right? And this is where nocturnal emissions come from. But the concept is that every time Lilith rode Adam in the middle of the night and he has this nocturnal emission, that can't create another human being, because that would have been something that Adam was, like going in for and wanted to reproduce. So every one of their offspring overnight creates another monster, and this is where cryptids come from. It's where goblins and demons and giants, and that's essentially this like original story. So yeah, if you follow the Nephilim trail and you consider Watchers begat Nephilim, begat giants, begat Lilith / Gilgamesh, these storm gods, and then those people keep having relations with humans, and that's what creates all these smaller and smaller monsters over time.
Well, we only talk about angels, hooking up with females. Don't tell me there wasn't a couple dudes who banged some Nephilim. Big scary bitches. There's some guys out there banging big scary bitches.
This was such a real thing, man, that there's something called prayer bowls, and they were all over the Middle East. But basically what happened is a wife would wake up and find out that her husband, had a nocturnal emission in his sleep, and she'd be angry because that means that Lilith had come and technically he cheated on her while they were sleeping. And they would take this to,
interesting.
They would take this to heart, and what they would actually have to do is go through a legal ceremony. They would have a legal divorce with Lilith, because they considered that if she came in the night and now you had kids with her or monsters with her, that like you might be on the book somewhere in like God's book. So now you got to get the priest to come over and like officially make it, unseal the deal. And they would put it on this little bowl, and they'd put a picture of Lilith in the middle and then write all around it. And they would write things like, Lilith, please leave my husband alone. Please leave my children alone. Leave this house alone, and then bury it in their yard. And that's one of the oldest examples of worldwide like magical talismans that we have. And it's about Lilith banging ladies' husbands while they're sleeping. I'm not making any of that up. That is all legit.
The original succubus, dude. The demon.
100%.
You at night to fuck you. Yeah.
I can't imagine paying child support to a succubus. That sucks.
We're making a shirt right now that says Eve was for the streets.
Yeah. Dude. Or we could have made
done. Zoltan, who normally does us, he thinks it's too He thinks it's too blasphemous. He won't do it.
What about Harry Mary? Is that blasphemous?
What is Harry Mary?
Well,
We can get into it, man.
we're talking Bigfoot, and Nate was talking about the hairy guys of the Middle Ages. So there was no less than 3 major artworks in the 15th century that depicted Mary Magdalene or Saint Mary, which could be 2 different Marys, as a hairy Bigfoot, like hair coming out of the legs, out of the arms, out of the face, everywhere. And this is what they call Hairy Mary.
And there's stories, that are actually like I've had some folks that came on and explained to it and talked to it that maybe Mary came from the Caucasus Mountains, like they came from like the north, and they were these hairy men, these hairy people, or these giants, and that Mary was a giant, and so was Jesus. He was also and so they're trying to tie this back to Bigfoot, that Mary and Jesus were Bigfoots.
You know what's
That's a
interesting
wild
about
one.
that?
I love it.
You know, it's in the Caucasus Mountains, Armenia. And the reason I bring that up is because there are Anunnaki sites in Armenia. And so I get into why are we bombing the shit out of the Middle East? Oh, it's oil. We have enough oil. We've talked about that on Cash Days the other day. We produce enough oil a day to basically keep America going. But the International Monetary System wants to take Saudi money and use it as basically the IMF's way of loaning out money. So that's what they do. And so they want us to use Saudi money. It's a system. Everybody's circle jerking each other. So it's not about oil. To me, it's all about destroying any kind of evidence of the history, the true history of man, and what our lineage, our hidden history, everything. And that's why the fucking dark arts fuck faces of the United States are funding Azerbaijan to annihilate Armenia, because Armenia has so much historical evidence we have Matt LaCroix on, who talked about how a site in Armenia changes the dates of man. And they're not even protecting these things. There's no security around them. You can walk up and fuck around with these things. They don't care because they want them gone, because they don't want you to change. And this goes back to why I'm telling you, I'm not buying anything that the Vatican is selling me. And, we get into also, like, when we had Ed Marby on, he was talking about the many beasts of the Bible, where each beast eats another beast, to the final beast is like 10 heads and 7 horns, or whatever, 7 heads, 10 horns, whatever it is, is like, and like a lot of people believe that is the Roman Catholic Church.
And there's also mountains too. Like there's like a dragon with 7 heads, and then it corresponds to the geography of the region where like these hills of the dragon. There's an outstanding book called Anatomy of Man that I think Manly Palmer Hall wrote, and he basically describes that you could read the Bible in 7 different ways, and those are the 7 seals. So you can read it one geographically, you can read it through again historically, you can read it through again as if it were like an anatomy book. And once you know how to do that in 7 different ways, then you can start putting all those connections together, because then you've got like the power of analogy on your side.
I think there's a lot more I could get into. Do we want to do the final discussion real quick, because I don't want to keep you guys forever? But what is this? The Tanit, Tanit? What is that?
Oh, Tanit. So Tanit is a wild ride. So if you follow the legacy of Lilith, and perhaps that gets absorbed into like Astaroth and Ishtar and all of these different goddesses, at a certain point she stops becoming as venerated, and then it switches over to the male deities. But Tanit was the last one that had this, and there's a really good possibility that Tanit, that worship, that was like the original sacred underground secret society to worship the feminine. And if you look at the symbol of Tanit, it is the all-seeing eye. It's the very first iteration of this symbol that like we ever basically saw. And I think that we were talking about Rome and the Vatican. So Tanit was basically the last big agricultural goddess of the Phoenicians. And then after the Second Punic War, when Rome takes down Carthage, that sort of drives all of these pagan beliefs directly underground. So now, unless you're a male that's in the military and you join the cult of Mithra, you don't really get to observe all of these same sort of secret societies that used to be. But the cult of Tanit in particular, I think, is a huge connection into all of this, specifically with Lilith.
Well, I mean, we've had guests on in the past that have talked about how, all this symbolism, even the push behind feminism, is to push to like destroy man and like worship the feminine gods and the Medusa and all that stuff. So that totally resonates with me. That totally fits into that. And I'm sure that's why you see like all the stuff you see in Hollywood is just old pagan rituals before, it's like, that's all they're doing. They're just worshiping pagan gods. And I don't necessarily have a problem with all pagan gods and all that stuff. I mean, I'm still new into my journey into Christianity and what that all represents, but I just think there's a lot going on, dude. A lot going on, and different gods and different deities, and are they fallen angels? Are they Nephilim and all that stuff? And that this powerful sect that worships the black cube and who's it, Baal and who's the pagan god of Kronos, like
Kronos,
all that
Saturn,
Saturn worship, all that shit. Like this is the dark arts. These are the sorcerers. The sorcerers are the masters of mankind. I really honestly believe that. And just not for some reason now, like conspiracies are becoming undeniable. And there are comics out there now that I just got told that they're starting to do conspiracy stories on stage, which is hilarious because these people tend to go with the flow. And that lets me know that we are becoming more mainstream, which I think is great, except for that's going to bring in more controlled opposition to say crazy. Like you're just going to see retards saying crazy shit to try to be used as to discredit the movement. So we have to be very, very conscious of who we listen to, who we accept. I tell people on this show, you're Ronin, you follow, you have no masters, you have no leaders, you're your own leader, and you should question everything that comes out on this show too. Please do tell me where I'm wrong. I love those. Okay, links, give me links. Let me see where it's wrong. Always question that stuff. And you got to do that because now it's becoming more and more mainstream conspiracies. More and more people are going to get into it. And it's very funny because I just interviewed a buddy of mine who's a comic, and he's where I was maybe in 2015. Just wanted to be Paul Revere. The lizard people are coming. And just like, we got to do something. Like, I think you have to be ready when the time comes. But the true way to beat the globalists is be a localist. That's what my belief is. Be a localist.
Straight
Work on your community, your block, your school boards.
That's a t-shirt, right? That's a t-shirt.
What's the t-shirt? Be a localist.
Yeah, the way to to beat the globalists is to be a localist. I think that's the t-shirt. I like it. All
right, done. New t-shirt soon be available.
What if your neighbors all suck though? What if they like are always calling code enforcement on you?
That's time to move. I'm with you, dude. I think about it all the time, bro. Like I gotta go near my tribe, but I like the weather of California, so I'm trying to figure it out. I mean, we're spoiled out here.
I wanted to just say, since this was like the all things Bigfoot, we can't not leave it off on one final note that Nate brought up to me last time we were chatting offline. And you made a joke, Sam, that if someone's got a picture of Bigfoot dong to send it in and for proof. Well, there is a way that you can definitively tell if you're looking at a real Bigfoot dong or if it's just like some random human dong. And apparently that's because on site, there's some people that will just instantly orgasm from just seeing a true Bigfoot dong.
Hold on. What did you just say?
Nate, please break it down.
Hey Thomas, I forgot I forgot this conversation, brother.
So Nate was telling me that there was like some listeners that had said that when certain females saw an actual Bigfoot dong in person, that it just immediately triggers a physiological response. Like there's no way to sit and think, I wonder what that is. Is that a Bigfoot? It's just like they feel it immediately. And we went on this whole tangent of like, man, that we should write some like funny Bigfoot like romance novels. And I go on Amazon, and not only do those exist, there's an entire genre of like 60 pages full of results on just Bigfoot romance novels. So it made me think that's more than just a joke. There might be something to this.
There's a meme out there that says, something along the lines of like being open-minded is believing in Bigfoot. Being awakened is fucking Bigfoot.
That's a hell of a way to wake up.
Well, I mean, it gets into my theory about like feminism, like how they act like they want a woke guy until they meet like a knuckle dragging real man, and then they get like caveman fucked, and now suddenly they're conservatives. Like, yeah. So that's my theory. If you're a woke woman, you haven't been fucked right. That's my opinion, right? You haven't gotten proper dick downs for you to think that we need to give a shit. Like a real good quality caveman fucking would have you voting for
All of a
Trump.
sudden, they're in an apron. They're making sandwiches.
Yeah, they're like, oh my God, I just want to cook and clean right now. Oh my God, Bigfoot dong, make you cream your jeans, bro.
So since he'll turn you conservative overnight, yeah.
So since you guys know a little bit about the dong, is it circumcised, uncircumcised? Do you guys know anything about that?
100% uncircumcised, bro. Yeah, all natural. Yeah.
It's got to be look like a Muppet dick.
Straight up.
That's what it's got to look like. Guys, you came, you saw, you dropped the hammer of the gods. This has been a great conversation, fun change of pace. We need to do more of these shows. One more time, Nate, tell them where they can find you.
Heck yeah, man. Find us on Rockfin if you want to. We just started a Rumble, I think. We are somehow still on YouTube, but I don't know. Just come check out our show. We're a lot of fun. We have really cool and interesting guests on. We talk about anything and everything. Yeah, there we go. We just had Ryan Christian on from The Last American Vagabond, so we have like
the
serious.
Best.
Yeah, we'll have like a serious conversation like that, or we'll talk about Bigfoot dong. So if you want to come and have fun with us, yeah, come check us out and send us an email. We always love our emails. We get hate mail sometimes. We get love mail sometimes. I guess you can send your dick pic if you want. We'll see if it's Bigfoot dong or not approved. So realityzars@gmail.com. We love our fans. And I always tell people, like I said, like if you live within an hour of Oregon, like Portland, I'll come hang out with you. I'll have a beer. Let's eat some tacos and chill. Let's talk some conspiracies. I love my fans.
Well, I love it. Paranoid American. Tell them where they can find
likewise. I'm in Orlando. If you're anywhere near Orlando, leave me the hell alone. I don't want to meet you. I don't want to see you. Just send me an email or something.
I haven't been turned into a lampshade yet.
Yeah, you can find me and all my stuff at paranoidamerican.com. And I've got an MK Ultra pamphlet there, a homunculus owner's manual. I'll be doing one soon with Nate that covers all this Bigfoot stuff. And sort of like illustrates every concept that we talked about. I even got
homunculus owner's manual. That sounds fantastic.
This is by Juan Ayala, that you guys know well here.
We love Juan.
So this is all his research illustrated and presented in a 33-page booklet. It's got over 70 unique animations in it.
You do such great stuff.
And I also got a children's book on here about chemtrails. So if anyone's interested in teaching their kids about that, there's a Connect the Dots, the Confounding Conspiracy of Chemtrails. It's like a 50-page
coloring books for the kids, like with cryptids. Those are awesome. Yeah, right there. Heck yeah.
Dude, you're doing the Lord's work, bro. You're doing the Lord's work.
Oh, that's amazing. That's dope.
I'm trying to make it fun. I'm trying to take the doom and gloom out of some of this too, because I think that you got to have a sense of humor. And then just sharing like the horrible apocalyptic visions all day, every day. It's not really my thing. So I like making it fun.
That's why we like to mix it up. I think that is one of the show's strengths, is that we don't stay on the same subject too long. I actually kind of weird if we hit a similar topic too many times. I'm like, okay, time to mix it up. And I think that's why people enjoy the show. I hope that's it. And that we can laugh at some crazy stuff, because if you're not laughing, you're not having fun. And you know, what is the point of trying to save the world if you're not having fun doing it? So I'm down. And again, Chaos Twins will get you a date. You know, I really want to blow this up. I really just want to make it something that people can enjoy to read to their kids, and we'll see where it goes. I'm very excited about it. So I'm going to get on the phone with the Paranoid American, and we'll set a date. We'll set up the whole GoFundMe to get it going. But the artwork is great, and it's perfect, and it's funny. And this is just episode 1. Our goal is to make it a series so people can have stuff to have their kids watch all the time. So, and if this goes well, we'll have spin-offs and do other stuff. I'm very excited about it. I know having kids, it's hard to find quality entertainment. You know, like I love Frozen, but man, that's about witches. So, I mean, like I'd love to have some just normal things that is just fun for your kids to watch. Guys, I hope you guys enjoyed this. Again, go to samtripoli.com. Last night the Comedy Store was great. With the greatest line of all time, just nothing but bangers at Comedy Chaos. At the end of the month, again at Pottstown's. Then I'm going to be in Vegas. Then we just added Morris Plains again. There's supposed to be 3 shows. We'll figure that out. Dates are coming. I love you all so much. Without you guys, again, we'd just be talking to ourselves. I hope you're enjoying this spiritual journey we're on through the world of conspiracies. And like I checked our numbers, we're up. We're still up. 7 years in, the numbers still go up. And without you guys, I don't know where we'd be. And we always try to make sure that we give you the best product we can, because without you guys, again, we'd just be talking to ourselves. And I know you have a ton of other options. So the fact that you stay with us means the world to us. And we hope you guys enjoy this quick stuff about our affiliate programs. And then check out these sneak peeks of my other shows, because those are going up too. People love those. And you can check out if he sends it in whenever, Xavier Guerrero's We Don't Smoke the Same. So we love you guys. Enjoy the highlights.
Here's a clip from the latest Broken Sim. Now, somebody breaks into your home. They're coming in, bad intentions. What would you say is a fair punishment for that person? If you were like an eye for an eye type, what would you say is a fair punishment for somebody who is breaking into your home and trying to steal? What would you be okay shooting that person while they're in your home?
Yeah.
Okay. Here's an approach that somebody else took, and I want you to tell me if you would take this approach. This is from Melbourne. It's reported by the AAP. A Melbourne man who overpowered and raped an intruder will spend at least 4 years in prison.
What?
Clay Holland, 32, faced the Supreme Court of Victoria on Tuesday when he was sentenced to 8 years imprisonment with a non-parole period for 4 years and 10 months. Holland's victim, Shane Cox, had broken into a unit in Melton in Melbourne's west in March 2021, armed with a knife and wearing a mask. He had asked for money and drugs and was illegally linked to others who had gone to the home and
dude, that is
crazy,
bro.
Mr.
That is
Cox,
nuts.
The guy was 36. He was 36 at the time. He was high on meth, and he was overpowered by the guy who was a guest at the home. That wasn't even his house. He was a guest.
Dude, that is Johnny. I want to say, dude, this is the craziest story you've ever done. You break in to commit a crime, and a worse crime is committed against you.
Yes. Mr. Cox, listen, dude, we're not even done. The guy, Mr. Cox, was beaten with a baseball bat and was incapacitated on the floor, where Holland then raped him.
Oh my God. You got to beep those words, by the way. YouTube will not enjoy this.
His body was found at the scene under a pile of blankets a day later by police who arrived at the property on an unrelated matter. He was hogtied, his mouth was duct taped, and his pants were pulled down to his upper thighs. In March, a jury convicted Holland on one charge of rape, but he was found not guilty of manslaughter.
Did the guy die?
No. I don't think so.
Yeah, of course. You can't get manslaughter if the guy doesn't die.
Your rape of Mr. Cox was a callous and degrading and humiliating act of retribution, Justice Christopher Beale said.
Dude, that shit is nuts, bro. That is nuts. That is nuts. That's the craziest story you've ever done.
Can you imagine being high? Oh man, that's wild, dude.
Wow, Johnny, what do you think? Now, if he would killed him, he wouldn't gone to jail, right? Because he's defending himself. But the fact that he took his beehole, he broke his cheeks. Now he's in jail.
Broke his cheeks. Oh, what is that? What does that even mean?
Isn't that a saying now?
Broke his beehole? No, I mean,
gave up the cheeks.
Oh yeah, sure. Yeah, I was broke his beehole was really the thing that got me.
Unbelievable. So the guy breaking in was high on meth.
That's what it sounds like.
What was the guy who did something to him? Was he just normal? I'm sorry.
I don't know. I'm not sure which one was high. It might have been the guy.
Hold on. So the guy comes in with a knife?
Yeah, knife, dude. He came in with a knife, bro. Yeah, and he was connected to people that had tried to break into other homes before or something like that.
Like, Johnny, do you think this guy deserves? Do you think
he
raped? Deserves?
No, he doesn't.
No, do you think he deserves to go to? The guy deserves 4 years.
4 years is a long time. But I just don't. The thing that the logical leap that I'm having trouble. Sort of, what would you say? Crossing here is where the energy goes from I'm trying to get this guy out of my house to now I'm gonna rape this guy. You know what I mean?
But it's not in his house either.
Yeah. At what point do you go from like I just want to? The guy's got a knife. I want to survive. To nah, I'm gonna rape him now. You know, he's there.
That's so crazy. Like, at what point does that come into your head? What point do you like?
I don't know. Maybe he's been to like
prison out. I mean,
maybe it's like prison justice.
Break his cheeks.
Break his cheeks. So this is another story that's just one of the. We talk about flying a lot because we both fly a lot. And did you hear this story this week? This is from Fox about this flight that was on its way to Europe from Atlanta and got diverted. Okay. A Delta Airlines flight from Atlanta, Georgia to Barcelona, Spain was diverted back to its original airport after a passenger experienced, quote, an onboard medical issue, which was reportedly a case of diarrhea that extended all the way through the plane.
Oh my God, bro. How embarrassed would you be if that happened to you?
I got good news for you too, Sam. We have video from this flight now. Video has since emerged of the flight in question. I'll just read a little bit more about the story before we share the graphic video. The website Flight Radar 24 shows that the Delta flight was about 2 hours into its 8-hour flight when it turned around. Here's what the pilot told aircraft traffic control. He goes, this is a biohazard issue. We've had a passenger who's had diarrhea all the way through the airplane. So they want us to come back to Atlanta, the pilot said. So now we're going to look at someone who just passed a camera all the way up the aisle, and you can just see.
Hold on. Hey guys, real quick, I want to tell you about all the wonderful stuff we got going on samtripoli.com. Check out tinfoilhat-t-shirts.com. We got 2 more about to go on, some brand new shirts, so check that out. My cameos are fire as well. Cameos are fire. I'm giving you 3 5-minute cameos going deep dives into everything conspiracy, or I'm giving you positive reinforcement, whatever you need.
You're doing birthdays too, right?
We're doing birthdays.
Woo-hoo!
We're doing bar mitzvahs. You're about to lose your virginity. You're going to have your first threesome. Whatever it is, I'm going to encourage you to do the best you can and drop the hammer of the gods. Guys, I also want you to check out Wise Wolf Gold and Silver. I'm part of their Wise Wolf pack. I'm buying gold and silver or precious metals from them every month. Join me. Get those precious metals for the end of times, or at least the end of the fiat dollars. We also have, I love some of these other stuff, AquaCure Hydrogen Brown Gas. We've had the inventor on. We've loved it. Wiseman's told us about the importance of hydrogen. Get it. I had people at my last show tell me how much they love this stuff. So go get it. You use the promo code. You'll get a little discount. Come on. Get yourself some hydrogen brown gas, everybody. It's a great way to support the show. Harley Ray candles and crystals, some of our favorite people on the planet. This is a great way to get your mystic on, your mysticism on. You need to fight off the powers of evil and use these candles, these crystals, the sage. It's all there, a one-stop shop for all of your mystical stuff that you need. And our new affiliate, Tim James and Chemical Free Body. I love his stuff. I use it all the time. He's one of the best in the food gut industry. Check him out. He's got the best supplements. He's got the best workout programs. I love him to pieces. Check him out. He's a good friend of mine. We talk all the time. He's got everything you need to get the right vitamins, the right balance, and everything. And if you use the promo code TINFOIL, you get 5% off. So check it out. Help us help you. Help us help you. And enjoy.
We go deep, homeboy. Aaron, open your mind. Drink from the fountain of knowledge. There's lizard people everywhere. That's some interdimensional shit. Wake up, Aaron.
This is only the beginning.
Dude, you just blew my mind. Tinfoil hack.